Welcome to Authenticity with Alicia, the podcast where we explore burnout, the pressures of society, and our quest for identity and authenticity. I'm Alicia, and today we're joined by nobody. It's just me. I wanted to partly do a little solo episode because this is the finale of season 2, and we've been joined by some incredible guests. And I just kind of wanted to reflect on some of the themes and messages. Also, for you guys to get to know me a little bit more. And the point of this is all about authenticity. And also, I did have a few guests lined up. We were going to go through the end of December. And then life happened and people need to take care of themselves. It's a really busy season right now, with life events, family stuff, work stuff, and people are taking care of themselves. And I'm so, so proud of them. So you get me for this a little bit, and I'm so excited to dive into some of my favorite topics. I wanted to start by just saying, wow, on season 2, guys, this has been some really interesting conversations on boundaries, the mental load. I'm trying to even think organizing. Like we had some amazing financial trauma. Like it was just a jam-packed season. And so if you haven't gotten to listen to some of them, please like take care of yourself, put it on while you're getting ready, put it in the car because these guests are fire. And I'm so honored that they took time to chat with me. I got to learn a lot. This podcast got to kind of develop into something a little bit more like honed in. Last time it was, season 1, I was learning what the heck I'm doing, and I do this for fun. So I'm really excited for season 2, and I'm super intrigued to see what season 3 brings in. But I'm trying to slow my brain down and do that, after the holiday season. I think what else's brain do that? Like, I feel like, it's so hard to slow down and enjoy the moment because my brain instantly is like eager and planning the next thing. Like, as I was, prepping for, what are we going to talk about in the season 2 finale? My brain's already thinking about, oh my gosh, season 3 can include these things and here's what you can change. And I'm like, whoa, brain, let's like slow down and enjoy the moment. I think that's really hard for a lot of folks. Like, and it's something that like my type of anxiety does, where it's a great motivator, where it helps me get stuff done. It helps me juggle the many hats being a business owner. It helps me, be successful in a lot of ways. It helps me get stuff done. But it also takes away sometimes being in the present moment. And I think that's why my relationships suffer because of my anxiety. So while like my anxiety is a motivating factor in being a successful business owner, meeting a lot of my goals, being productive, on the outside, it looks like I got my stuff together. My brain is constantly going, and it's hard for me to really like be present and authentic and deep in a lot of conversations because my brain's constantly like 5 steps ahead. And I think that's just a good reminder for me and for a lot of folks where it's like we only see what people kind of want people to see. And so, yes, a lot of people online, they can look successful. A lot of people can meet their goals. And I think it's like to celebrate them and like they work really hard. I work really hard to meet my goals. But things are also a lot more complicated and complex than I think we can see. And I think one of the themes in season 2 has been social media, where so many of my guests have talked about the danger, excuse me, the dangers and the harm of social media. We also talked about how great social media can be, but it's how it's used, right? And so a lot of us, we see something on social media and it's not nuanced. We're just kind of like seeing what people are presenting and then we compare ourselves. And so if you think about, folks with anxiety, like I'm so glad that people with anxiety are sharing their stories, that there's a space for that. But also I think it's hard because then we start comparing ourselves to, well, my anxiety doesn't look like that. Or, they get to do all this stuff and run these successful businesses, but my anxiety is more debilitating. I can't get out of my bed when I have anxiety. And so I think it's really important to remember one, everyone's stuff looks different, so we cannot compare ourselves to other people. There's been a constant theme this season And I think it's one that I really want to like end the season with is we can't compare. Now, it's human. We're going to once in a while, right? Like our brains are naturally going to do that, but it's so important for us to catch it and kind of like see where it's going because it's so easy to go down that negative spiral and say, well, we are less than, we are not good enough, they are better than me. And those types of labels then start becoming like our identity and increasing shame and guilt. And those aren't really like motivating forces, right? I talk a lot about self-compassion with my clients, and something that I incorporate a lot in my own life because to me, self-compassion is more of a motivating driving force. So self-compassion, for anyone who doesn't know, definitely go check out Kristen Neff's website. She's like the lead researcher in self-compassion. She hosts tons of events and trainings. There's guided things on there. There's recorded meditations. There's all sorts of goodies. So go check her out. But self-compassion is a game changer because we all have these thoughts, right? We have these thoughts of I'm not good enough. We have these thoughts of I feel guilty about this. I should have done this. Why can't I do these things? Those are human thoughts. That's okay that we have those. What happens is what we do with them, right? And so what a lot of us do is we start comparing ourselves to these people on social media, or we say, I should have done this. Should is the big like keyword whenever my clients start like shitting on themselves. I'm like, oh, I heard that word. Let's break this down a little bit. So should is a great kind of like awareness of, oh, I gotta kind of do something about this. So let's say I want Thanksgiving is this week. By the time that I'm recording this, it's going to be Thanksgiving. We're having people come over for a Friendsgiving. So let's say I really want to clean my kitchen so I can cook and enjoy that time with our friends. And let's say work is also really busy this week. Got a full caseload in 2 days. So let's say after work today, I have this giant to-do list. Let's say I don't get to it. My initial thought, because I'm human, and even though I've done a lot of work on myself, my initial thought is still going to be, oh, I really should have either seen less clients or I should have managed my time better. I should have done something. I should have done more cleaning over the weekend. It could be anything. The should doesn't really matter. What matters is that should language, right? Most of us are going to have something like that throughout our day to day. Where I've gotten better is the keyword. I'm not perfect at this. Better is I acknowledge, oh, I just said should to myself. And then I think about the context. Well, this past weekend, I actually did do a decent amount of cleaning. My husband and I spent about an hour deep cleaning like things that we haven't cleaned since we moved into our house 6 months ago. This also was the first weekend that I saw my husband in about 2 weeks because we were traveling for different things. He was at a conference, then I went to some family. And so we also just wanted to enjoy our time together by watching some TV, going and shopping, hanging out with our cat. So I was really intentional with wanting to spend that time with him. I also wanted to I took 3 days off and I really wanted to, one, make some extra income because I've had some unexpected expenses come up this year. So I am human and I need money to survive in my economy. And 2 days I felt like was a good enough time. And I knew my boundaries and my limits and my energy levels. I guess I didn't know exactly like what my full to-do list would be when I scheduled those, but I felt very confident with the knowledge that I had at the time, what my boundaries typically are. And so I can't go back and be like, I should have done things differently because today me knows, oh, I actually have like a decent sized to-do list and kind of tired because I'm still catching up from, my routines being out of whack. But today me knows different knowledge than last week me knew, right? So I can't judge myself for not knowing what I didn't know. Now, why I love self-compassion is because it's not saying, well, let's excuse our bad behavior. First of all, me not cleaning or scheduling a couple extra clients isn't bad behavior. But let's say I made a commitment to somebody. Let's say I told my husband I was gonna, clean four of these things, and I really didn't want to let him down because he has done a lot for me lately. I can feel bad about that, right? Like it's also a human emotion. So self-compassion instead allows me to say, oh, I feel kind of bummed that I'm letting my husband, I made this commitment to him, and it's really important that I stay true to my word. But instead of me saying, well, I didn't do these things that I said to my partner, now I'm a bad person and he's, does so much and now I'm this awful person who doesn't do anything and I feel bad with myself. Do you see how that spiral like instantly starts going? Self-compassion acknowledges the feeling. I'm really bummed that I didn't get like everything, that I don't have more time in the day, or more energy to get things that I want done. I do feel bad because I told him that I would do this, and it's really important to me to make him feel loved and cared for and that he can trust me. I also know my partner is a very forgiving person. He's not going to be mad at me, or think that I'm a bad person. He's very understanding of the context. And he would also say that he would rather us enjoy our weekend together. And if we don't have a spotless house for our friends to come over, that is okay because our friends like us for who we are and not for what our house looks like. And so I can still honor the feeling of I don't like telling my husband I'm going to do something and then not being able to do it, but it doesn't make me a bad person. Secondly, self-compassion also reminds me that a lot of other people feel this way. I know at the time that I'm recording this, there were so many people. Actually, I just saw a post on Facebook of like someone in one of my therapy groups.
It's on everyone's to-do list today. Um, and everyone's like cooking, cleaning, working. And so I know I am not the only person stressed and super busy this week with a giant to-do list. And I know those people also feel similar things that I'm feeling, so I'm not alone. I also am not alone in that if I need some emotional support, I can reach out to a friend or my husband and say, hey, my brain is going all over the place, and they're going to validate me and reassure me. And then the last reason that I love self-compassion is it actually is a motivating factor. So I know I'm kind of going all over the place, and that's why I like really recommend going to Kristen Neff because she specializes in this and is a lot more eloquent in her ways of explaining things. But for me, if we go back to my example of, let's say I don't get anything done and I think, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have done this, it instantly like makes me feel like crap and I don't want to do anything, right? If I feel like this awful person who can't juggle her job and her home, and I'm thinking about all the things that I have to do before our friends come over, that can be a very like paralyzing, stuck feeling. I feel bad. I feel like I'm a bad person. I feel like I'm a bad wife. I feel like I'm a bad friend. I feel like I'm a bad homeowner, like all of these things. Does that make me feel good? No. I'm gonna want to lay on my couch or avoid those feelings and maybe go back into work and just be like, I'm gonna focus on work. And I'm not gonna actually get anything done, right? If I feel like crap, am I gonna want to go do my dishes? No. If I feel like crap, am I gonna want to go prep some of the food that I have to cook? No. I'm gonna want to watch TV, maybe cry, hang with my cat, and avoid those things. It doesn't actually help me get my stuff done. Self-compassion helps me get stuff done because, again, I'm acknowledging the feelings, I'm not avoiding it. Self-compassion is not creating excuses, it is not avoiding our feelings. It's saying, yeah, I feel stressed by all the things that I have to do. And I feel really bummed that I told my partner I was going to do something and maybe I don't get to do it. I feel bummed about that. It reminds me that other people feel this way. I'm not alone. I'm not stupid in this. I'm not the only person. There's just something like inherently bad with me because I'm feeling these things. And then the last part is it allows me to do what I need to do. So I say, okay, what do I need? Well, I need to tell my partner that maybe I'm not going to be able to do all these things. I need to talk to him. And instead of assuming I think he's going to get mad at me or be disappointed in me, I need to just talk to him. And then because I know my partner, he's going to reassure me and be like, oh, it's not a big deal, Alicia. It's okay. I'll help you out when I get home today. Or let's adjust our menu. Or we can move some of these to-do lists to a different day and prioritize these certain rooms. Perfect. Maybe I need to reach out to my friends and be like, oh my gosh, this week is chaos. Is anyone else feeling chaos? And they're going to be like, yes, this week is chaos. And that makes me feel good. Not that they are also in chaos, but that I'm not bad because I think so highly of my friends. I think so highly of my family. And if they are struggling, I don't want them to ever struggle, but humans struggle. Then that means I'm not bad. I'm not this like exceptional superhuman who is immune from feeling, right? And I think that's like the key that a lot of people with self-compassion, like that's the aha moment, is we realize we have higher standards for ourselves than we do for other people. Because whenever I do self-compassion with my clients, or even myself, I'll be like, what would you tell a friend? If my clients are talking to me, I'm like, what would you tell your best friend if she said she just wasn't going to be able to get everything done the week of Thanksgiving? Would you think that they're a bad person? Would you think that they're an awful wife? And they're immediately, no hesitation, no thoughts. No, of course not. This woman is a saint, right? They are juggling all these, and they're instantly adding context. They're like, oh my gosh, no, it's super busy right now. I know like it was election season, and so they're going through a hard time. And they also have, two kids. And so like school right now is a little hectic. And so she's running around and they're also in sports and then like plans change. And then she's also, just got this new job thing. And they're instantly adding context to why this person deserves grace and kindness. They think that this person is not a bad person. They still think so highly of their friends or their family members. They do not judge them for not meeting whatever the expectation is in this hypothetical, right? And it's so fun to see like how instant this is for my clients. And I'll even do this with myself. I'll be like, what would I tell a client right now? And I'm always like, oh my gosh, I would be so proud of the things that they're doing. I would think that, they're doing their best and I would like be so kind to them. And my clients are so kind to their hypothetical friends and family members. But we are not kind to ourselves. We're like, but I should be different, right? Like I'm the exception. I somehow need to have all of my stuff together. Everyone else is great and I love them and they can do whatever they need to do. I need to be different. How impossible is that, right? Why do we do this to ourselves? And again, it keeps us stuck instead of moving forward. I noticed this a lot this past year in full transparency and authenticity. I'm pretty open with me and my anxiety. I've dealt with anxiety, gosh, I think probably most of my life. I don't think I had the language to know it was anxiety. But I think I've been anxious my whole life. And so I've learned to coexist with it. I do not think I'm a bad person. I don't think I'm weak for having anxiety. And like I said, there's certain moments where I actually like have found to benefit my anxiety. Like it helps me in certain ways. So I've kind of like reframed how it helps me. Still annoying sometimes. Again, we're working on it. She tries to be helpful, but sometimes she's not. But I know how to coexist with it. I've done a lot of therapy on it. I've done a lot of work on myself, and we got a coexisting relationship. Me and anxiety were cool. This past year, I also got diagnosed with depression, and that was a lot harder for me for a couple of reasons. One, it was new. So, like I said, I feel like I've had anxiety in some way or another most of my life. And so, even though I didn't have the language, like I knew what it felt like. I've also done a lot of work in these past few years, probably since college, to kind of start exploring that a little bit more and identifying it and coexisting with it. So I knew the tools, the language, the functions. I knew how to live with anxiety. I'm not saying it was easy all the time, but I knew how to live with it. And so this was new. And I tell people, again, self-compassion comes into here, right? Where if a client comes to me and they're like, oh my gosh, I've dealt with this one thing and this other thing came up and I didn't know what to do. I was doing all these tools and I was doing all this stuff and I felt like, I wasn't good enough or I was a failure. And I was be like, no, of course you didn't know. Like, those are different beasts. But was I using that same kindness to myself? No, of course not. So I got depression this past year. So again, one, it was something new. I didn't know what the functions were. I didn't know what the warning signs were. I didn't know the exact tools. Like I knew what tools to use when I was feeling anxious and how to coexist with it. And I didn't exactly, like, they weren't always transferable to my depression. Um, I also, because I'm human, felt like I, as a therapist, shouldn't have depression. Now, again, here's where self-compassion comes into play. I immediately had that thought, and then I was like, wait, I know other therapists who have depression, and they are wonderful therapists. I think so highly of these other therapists. They've been very open with their depression, and I've been so proud of them. And I think they are wonderful therapists and wonderful humans. And again, it was instant. Like, I truly believe that those other therapists and people in the helping field are incredible. And I know that there's like things in our brains and genetics that lead to this, and it doesn't mean that people are bad or weak. And again, I could honestly say this about other therapists and other people in my life, but somehow we hold ourselves to different standards. And so I did. I kind of had some like internalized shame of like, oh, like I'll talk about my anxiety, but I'm not really going to talk about my depression because are people going to think I'm a bad therapist about this? It's like, well, why do we think differently for depression than anxiety? And I did talk, I think it was actually full circle. I think in our first podcast episode this season, we had Callie come on and we talked about how burnout often looks like depression and how there's a lot more stigma around depression, I think. And again, and just like we mentioned in that podcast episode, there's a lot of people whose anxiety can't get them out of bed. People with anxiety might not be able to leave their houses, get stuff done. This is not to say that depression is worse than anxiety, because everyone's experiences are different. But I think there's more shame with depression. We hear about depression more when it comes to unaliving ourselves, when we have thoughts of death. We hear depression more and we think of movies that portray depression, and it's always people who can't get out of bed, they aren't taking care of themselves. We might think, oh, they're being lazy. I've heard that a lot. Well, they just need to like suck it up and do things. And so I think we think of depression as more of a stuck, lazy thing. And I think even as a therapist where I work with folks with depression, and I know other amazing therapists with depression, I have people in my family who are depressed, and I would say none of those people are lazy. All those people are super strong. I am in awe of all of them. I am so proud and inspired and understand their functions and can give them grace and kindness and understanding. We're human, and those things still influence us. So we internalize some of those beliefs and when it comes to ourselves. And so I thought that I had to be different somehow, that somehow these other people can have depression and be strong and amazing and wonderful, but somehow I'm different and my depression is going to make me a bad therapist. And I was really worried. I also noticed it because I was studying for an exam. So, fun, good news is I am going to be licensed in Minnesota. I'm licensed in a few different states, and the process has been relatively easy. I mean, it's been like jumping through hoops and kind of annoying at times, but it's been relatively easy. And this Minnesota exam really kicked my butt. Um, it was really hard. People are like, "Are you gonna get it anymore?" And I'm like, "Heck no." This like defeated me. And part of it was I was taking a test, and I haven't taken a test in over 8 years since I got licensed in Oklahoma. Um, and then again, context. I'm a great test taker. I would get straight A's in school. I passed like our national exam with flying colors. I passed my Oklahoma exam. I think I only got one question wrong. And I was like, oh, why is this so hard for me? Like, I'm such a good test taker. And then context, I had to practice some self-compassion. And I was like, well, Alicia, it's been 8 years. Probably longer, honestly. Like I don't do math anymore. So I'm like, it's been a long time since I've had to study for an exam. I've been working, I've been maintaining, I've been doing my CEUs, like I've been working hard, but studying is a different way that we use our brain. And even though I was good at it, I haven't really done it in 8 years. So of course I'm going to be a little rusty, right? But I was kind of hard on myself about that. I really had to practice self-compassion and be like, okay, the Oklahoma exam was also a lot easier because I was living in Oklahoma at the time. My professor who taught ethics and like helped us prepare for the exam was on the board, and so I felt very prepared. I took the exam pretty soon after I graduated, so it was fresh in my brain. If I compare that to me now, I'm also working full time. I'm running two businesses. I just bought a house. I'm not living in the state of Minnesota. I live next door in South Dakota. I didn't have any professors tell me what to expect in this exam. I didn't have colleagues or mentors to tell me what to expect, how it was, how to study, how to prepare. So I just kind of was like guessing. So I really had to practice self-compassion and see that I can't compare myself to 8 years ago me, and I'm really struggling right now. 8 years ago me also didn't have depression. So again, my anxiety, my type of anxiety often helps me in the workplace. It impacts my relationships, not in a great way, but it oddly helps me get stuff done. And that was different this year because my depression didn't want me to study. My depression wanted me to rest. My depression wanted me to take more time for myself, not push myself too much. It was hard to stick to my study schedule that I created, to think positively that I was going to pass. I was really nervous, actually. A lot of people were like, oh, I have no doubt that you're going to pass. But I really was like, it's a flip of a coin. I didn't fully believe in myself like I believed in myself in the past. I also didn't super care. And that sounds maybe weird to say because I am such like a type A perfectionist, high achieving person. And, I would like sit down to study and I was like, well, who cares? Who cares if I don't pass? I'll take it again in December or January. And if you would have seen me 8 years ago, me retaking a test would have been like full blown, no, no, I would never do that. So it was really hard this time to stick to things and coexist with like these competing forces because there were times when the anxiety was like, "Hey, Alicia, we should do this." And the depression was like, "Hey, or not." And I had to kind of figure out where do I navigate those. I got on some depression medication, and it's been a game changer. But it's really been a whole year of adjusting and finding new routines and practicing a lot of self-compassion. And why self-compassion worked is because when I decided not to study some of those times, I didn't think I was a bad person. I was kind of bummed still of like, oh, I'm kind of nervous that like I really want to be studying because I want to be as prepared as possible, but I'm also listening to my body right now, and I know I just worked 4 hours with clients, and my brain's not going to retain this anymore. My brain is a different brain than it was 8 years ago. And I did practice some kindness. It wasn't easy all the time. It wasn't automatic all the time, but I didn't think I was a bad person for not studying every day. I knew I was doing what I had to do and I was practicing adding context. There was one of the weeks I had COVID, and so I was supposed to take the test in October. And then I had COVID, and everyone's like, "You're not going to want to study while you have COVID." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. I'm going to move the test to November." And again, I was kind to myself. Then the election happened and like Thanksgiving drama and all this stuff happened. And so I didn't really study much the week before my November test, but I didn't think I was lazy. I didn't think that I was stupid. I didn't think that I didn't care. I didn't think negatively of myself. I just said, I don't have the capacity right now, and that's okay. I'm going to do the best that I can do. I'm going to try my hardest, but sometimes my hardest isn't giving it 100%. Sometimes I don't have 100 to give. Um, and it worked out because it still allowed me to keep moving forward instead of going deeper into the depression hole, the shame spiral, some of those things. So self-compassion really saved my life this year. It was wonderful. Again, it's not easy all the time, but it helps me move forward. It helps a lot of my clients. And I think it goes with a lot of the themes that we talked about this podcast season of comparing ourselves, thinking that we need to do it all. Um, we talked about money things of these shoulds that we should do, organizing, having our house look a certain way, um, our jobs looking a certain way, being at a certain place, like a milestone, like, oh, I'm 30, I need to, own a house and be an executive, or I need to have this many kids by this time. Like, we put all these shoulds on us. And I think self-compassion is just a wonderful tool and something that I hope that you guys can go explore in these other podcast episodes and on Kristen Neff's website. Big fan. She's got books. She's got all these fun things. So big fan of hers. Kind of fangirling. So that's kind of been my year. I've been so influenced and impressed by the people who have been on this podcast this season. I'm so thankful for you guys for listening. And for just hearing my story and how I've been this year. And I'm super excited for what next year has in store for us. I'm trying to find a good balance of like being excited for next year and like planning new things and like tapping into this creative momentum and also just like enjoying and being proud of myself for this season. Both the podcast season and like the literal season that I'm in. So again, I'm working on it. We don't have to be perfect at it. It's something that I'm aware of, but I am truly excited for next season. And I'm also really thankful for the wonderful relationships I've gotten to nurture, the people I've met, and for you guys along the way. So until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. And remember that the world needs the real you. So let's explore that authenticity together.